Welcome to Dream Cloud Millennial Tech. This is a robotics course on Millie Mini AI Bot. And in this group of lessons, we're going to go over how to CAD or how to design in 3D in the computer. The body, which we're going to 3D print. But first we have to make the files. You can see here that these are all different wheel components. Everything is just bolted together. So these are two pieces. And then we have the neck, which is bolted together. And then we have this back plate, which comes out. So this guy right here just slides right on. Right? That also allows us to turn it in this orientation. Right? So we can use it as a tablet in horizontal mode. So let's do a quick demo. I'm going to start it up, double tap it.
Hello, Millennial Bot. It's me, Millie, your personal AI agent. How can I help you?
Hey Millie, we're just doing a quick video intro, so why don't you show us our notes list? So this is just one of the features that the AI can do. Can change the face, and we can look at the notes. So if we
displayed your notes list. If there's anything specific you'd like to work on or review, just let me.
So I'm just going to pause it. Right down here, you have the control over AI, and then you've got this little list of different notes. And we can open these up. So you have a nice little list right there. Trying to get that to focus. Right? And you can tell the AI to edit these. We can create those notes with the voice command. This is all going to be explained later when we actually do the coding lessons. But the first lesson are just going to be how to 3D print the body and how to design that in FreeCAD. So this is going to be in Linux, and it's going to be in FreeCAD, and that's all we're going to do for now in this first video. The other thing this does is an AI schedule. So basically this page is just filled with a bunch of alerts, and then we can have the AI create these, and these will speak out loud. One of them just went off when I got here at 2 o'clock. So these will just autoplay. So we have the face. This is where we have the regular conversation. We also have a text transcription. So the whole time the AI is running, it's also building this text transcription. You can use it like this, and it'll speak back to you. I also built in image creation, and what I'm thinking we use this for is so you can create backgrounds for the face. So this image generator right now will just generate any image or using diffusion, but in the future we'll be able to create different backgrounds. So it won't just be a black background with white eyes. We'll create some kind of a background generator where you can create your own background using the AI itself, save that, and then replace the background. Again, that'll be in later videos. For now, we're just going to focus on building the robot, designing it. This is built for the Samsung A9, the Galaxy A9. That's a much larger tablet. This is MillieBot. This is going to be in a future lesson. This first one here was built on the A7 tablet, and we're actually going to move up to the A9 Plus. So this is going to be what we build the next generation. It's a slightly larger tablet, as you can see. We're going to be building this generation of MillieBot or Millie Mini AI around the Galaxy Tab A9 Plus. So that's what we're going to be CADing today around, the dimensions of this tablet. But we already have the files for these. So we're going to go over what I've done and kind of review the existing CAD models. I still want to make changes to this body, make it a little smaller, and make it easier to print. So we're going to be doing this live, and then you'll be able to follow along. And we're building out a whole kind of a robot school and we're going to be including more lessons on more subjects eventually. But basically, this is kind of the beginning course. We're going to focus on Millie Mini AI Bot. This is a desktop AI robot. It's basically just an AI agent for now. In future videos, we'll be replacing the wheels with actual motors. We're going to be putting a Raspberry Pi on board. And I think I'm going to buy another robot kit from a different company and just wire up this robot to work with ROS. So this will be a fully functional AI robot, autonomous in the future. But for now, it's just the AI agent. So we're going to redesign the body, and we're going to do the full complete CAD. And then in the next section of this course, we'll be doing the 3D printing and explaining that. And then in the following section, we'll be doing the software, and we'll be working probably in Cursor, and I'll explain to you how the code works. And at that point, you can download the code and run it yourself. So follow along. This is going to be great. We're basically going to build an online school, and I'm going to try to make it as affordable as possible, subscription-based, so everyone can access education. And then I want to invite more educators who are doing STEM-focused work first to build more courses and to collaborate. And then eventually it'll be a whole K through 12 education system online that anyone can access. And then we're going to tie in the education courses that are available on the website, which is where this will be. They will also be available from Millie Mini AI. So this will be integrated to be a teacher in the future. That's basically what we're building. I think that we need to really improve the education system. So I'm going to start with what I know, and that's robots. And then I'll be inviting other people to create more courses. So let's jump into it. Let's start CADing Millie Mini AI Bot. Welcome to the first section of the robotics course, Millie Mini AI Bot. In this section, we're going to be focusing on FreeCAD, right? So we just talked about modeling the robots before we 3D print them. And this is how we're going to get it done. There are several different CAD modeling platforms, 3D modeling software programs that you can get into. I got into FreeCAD because it's free. I try to use as much open source technology on this project as possible, other than Cursor, which we'll get into in the coding or programming section. So this is just the design section right now. And then we're going to go up here to download. You can read about it, right? There's all this other stuff you can research about it. But basically, I think you can go in here, download. Yep. So here are your stable versions. And I'm using Linux. So I'm going to go over and select one of these and download it. I already have this downloaded, but you can see that you can run this on Windows, you can run this on Mac, or you can run it on Linux. Now, be advised that, this program does require a little bit of a GPU usage. So when I tried to run this on my Mac at home, I don't think it has, it's a really basic Mac, like one of the older towers, and it really didn't have any GPU in it. And so it was overloaded and it would crash constantly. So FreeCAD is not perfect, and I would recommend, as you will see, saving often, because sometimes it crashes and you don't want to lose your work. So save often. Go ahead and download this, and let's just see what this does. Yeah, that just downloads it. I'm gonna actually cancel that because I don't want to do that. But if you click download, then you will set it up. If you're setting it up in Linux, set it up in Linux. If you're setting it up in Windows, set it up in Windows, etc. We're not going to go over that. Hopefully by now you know how to install apps on your computer. What we're going to do is jump right into FreeCAD. So this is how it starts. This is kind of the default menu. You've got your recent things you're working on. And here you can already see that I have this orange one here, this open. I also have this blue one here. And this is literally, the two different bodies that I have in the physical world. So we're going to make, I think we're going to make another orange one because we're going to redo the body. We're going to redesign it from scratch again. But I will show you a couple things on here. So I'm going to get out of this start menu. The other way to open programs in FreeCAD or files is just right here. You're going to have your open recents. So these are things that I've been working on. You can also go to open, and then you're going to want to click this right here. So these are all going to be print files that I created for the 3D printer, but this is actually a FreeCAD file, right? And you can filter this by just FreeCAD document right there so that it only shows up that. But as you can see, I got the Millie Bot, and this is, these are all the different files that we used on the larger robot. And that was just to kind of like separate things. But for Millie Mini, we only have 2 different body types right now. So we're gonna look at robot 1 first, and then we're gonna go to robot 2 next. I have both of those open, so basically they're right here. Now let's talk about FreeCAD and how you build things, because just kind of understanding how the program itself works is really important to get clear on. So all of these things are basically, they call them pads. So we're just creating a bunch of pads, and we're putting pockets in the pads, and we're chamfering or we're filleting. So I really am not doing anything complex here. This is all simple. This is only a few commands. And as you see the workflow, it'll get really repetitive, and there'll be like, action 1, action 2, action 3, action 4. And it's very repetitive. It's not like you're doing several unique things, over and over. So right here, I can see that this right here is the lower cube. I want to just look at this really quick. It looks like I turned something off. So the way this works, let's just jump into kind of explaining how all these things work. And if I actually go into the other one, I think it's a little cleaner because I did it the second time. So basically what we have here is you need to start with one of these, right? So if I'm just in here, these are called bodies, right? All of these are bodies inside of the file. So the main file is what we call it, right? Save as or save. That'll, when we start a new one, I'll show you that. But basically, these are all of the different bodies. Now you can just think about these as like the unique one kind of a 3D mass, right? Like all of these that are going to be printable need to be their own bodies. They need to be their own unique 3D mass, right? And as long as that's true, then you can put them close together, or you can have them be on tangent sides, right? So these are all touching. These are all, kind of like stacked on top of each other. They're not just randomly ordered. They're placed in a specific place, and you can use them as references for each other. So you kind of need to start with one thing. You need to decide where you're going to start. And most often, I start with this guy right here, which is the lower cube, right? This is kind of where I started building from as the foundation. So we start with the lower cube, and then we go downward in that direction, and then we go upward in that direction. That's just how I've been doing it. So I think I'm just going to continue that logic. So let's get into just a few examples of how things work. So if we start up here, let's start with the lower cube, right? See the lower cube right here? All of these steps needed to happen for us to get to this right here. And they're just named after the action that you take, which will be over here. So that's why it's called chamfer, because what we did was a chamfer. So it just names it that. You can rename that to anything you want. But if you're constantly renaming these, then you're wasting time when you just need to have them be kind of, you know, I know that that's a chamfer, so if I want to undo that, I'm just undoing a chamfer, all these things. So what we can do is start to, I'll click off this so you can see, but if I start to go from, hopefully it doesn't, yeah. Okay, so basically these are just undoing specific things. You can't really tell, but let's just go back to the first pad, right? So this right here keeps a record of like how the thing started. So this whole shape started, right? Let me turn this one off. Let me turn all these off. So the eyeball is just turning all these off. So basically I just have this one thing open, right? And that's the lower cube. And that's the first pad, right? And then what is the second pad? Well, that second pad was, I went downwards. So I did that pad and then I went downwards by 5 millimeters. All of this is going to be in 10 to 5 millimeter increments. And then I went up, right? So I did that. So I took the pad and I went up. But I did it so it was, you know, kind of like a hollow box almost, right? And then I carved out of that. And then I carved out of that. So before we do that, let's just go into how does this pad get created, right? This pad right here, if we're looking at that, how does that pad get created? Well, it gets created based on this sketch, right? And this sketch has to be drawn first. And basically what you do is you just create a sketch on top of a surface. So on top of this pad, on the top surface, I created a sketch. And then from that sketch, we hit close. And then we hit something like pad. I click on pad and it automatically starts making this pad for us. And again, when we do this, it'll be a little easier. I'm just trying to give you a preview of what steps you take. And then you create a pocket, right? See the pocket right here? And that you do a through all. If I do a through all, that means wherever I drew this, if we look at the drawing, right? I drew this right there. And then I did a pocket, right? Let's close that. And then I do, this pocket is a through all. If I don't do a through all, I don't want to break it, because if you break stuff like that, you know, it could screw up this whole presentation. So I'm just going to cancel. And I'm going to save. But essentially, this lower cube right here, I did a pocket through all, and then I did another pocket through all, and that took out this guy and this guy, right? So 1, 2, and then I did a pocket in the middle for the wiring, and then I started building these pads. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to see these pads appear right here. I'm not going to do it like this. We're going to do something different. But essentially, these pads right here were so that you could put bolts through here, and you could connect the next piece to this. So pad, you can just see them as I go. Pad, this pad, right? This pad, and then this pad. Right? So all those pads came out of right here. And basically that was just creating a little square on top and, you know, and then creating a pad, extruding a drawing into a pad, right? And then we have the pocket. So this pocket is actually the four holes that were put in here, and that's where the bolt goes. And then the fillet was to round those edges, right? And to do that, all you have to do is use this tool up here, which we'll go over. Again, I'm going to build this completely from scratch, so I'm just trying to go over kind of how these things flow so that you're not guessing in the future. And then we did a pocket of all of these holes where we basically, this is interesting, right? So we created this grid and then we put all these different holes on it and then we just do a pocket. So just think about holes or pockets and cuts or pockets, and taking material out, subtracting from the model is just a pocket, and then adding to the model is just a pad. So that's kind of the language of FreeCAD and I think most other CAD software. And then we did, what was this pocket? Oh, and then we did this pocket, see down here? This one goes all the way through. So these ones up here, these ones don't go all the way through. You can see how there's a coloration there, but, oh, this one doesn't go through all the way either because it bolts in. This is where it bolts in from the bottom. So this is where these 4 holes right here are where the piece underneath is going to bolt in. And then these holes up here are for mounting, but neither of them go all the way through. And then we did a chamfer right here. And that chamfer was just right here on the top. You can see how that went from those edges to chamfered edges. And that's kind of what I do for all this stuff. And then we did another chamfer, which I think is this one right here, right? That edge. And then, see, when we get to here, it's almost like you're just kind of fine tuning it. And then I wanted to make these little, this was later. I would have done this before the chamfers, but I did this so that these pads, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? These 4 pads, you can see that there's this little detail here that will stick inside the next layer. And if I just show you what that is, it makes more sense. So these right here, right, go inside that section, which is just hollowed out on the next piece up. So those kind of stabilize it, because you'll find that if you 3D print things, they tend to kind of bow out as you print them up. They kind of go out this way, and that's just because that's how the printer is functioning. It's not everything is perfectly aligned. So if you create something that will align pieces like that, for this project, we're gonna separate the arms. I think it would be a good idea to print just this lower pad right here as one piece, and then we'll create, I'm sorry, not arms, but these are like the vertical components. We're gonna re-engineer this so these vertical components are individual and they'll bolt on individually. And then you'll have this middle deck, and then you'll have more vertical. So basically I'm gonna create these posts and then pads, and then you'll be able to create different posts and pads, and you'll be able to change the height. So you could just create the different posts, but you can use the same pad. Right now, if you wanted to change anything about the height, you would have to reprint this entire piece over again. And so that doesn't really make any sense. So this was just for speed. Obviously, I've printed out a couple of demo models, but for this next kind of iteration, I want these posts to be a separate piece from this pad so that you could just replace those. So let's just hide this once again, and we'll focus on this guy. So right here, we're on the pad, and then basically we just did an external chamfer all the way around the edge, and then we did an internal chamfer. Now, if you look at this internal chamfer, it goes all the way around, right? It goes on the inside, up, across, down, up, across, down. So this was actually one chamfer, and if I open this, you see how many edges were clicked on, and then it's a 1.5 millimeter. So the chamfers on all of these are like 2 to 1.5 millimeters. There's not a whole bunch of chamfering going on, but just a little bit to make the edge kind of feel clean, like it's not a hard edge. The 3D printer actually does do kind of a little round edge. It's never really printing like a full-on, sharp edge, because it's kind of always turning while it's printing. So that's basically it. That's going to be, you know, an example of how one piece is printed. But as you'll see, as I do this live, you're not going to be doing all of those steps at a time. You're going to be doing something much more like this. If I turn everything on, right? And if I go back to that lower cube and I turn that pad on, yeah, see that pad right there? That's kind of how I started. And then you'll go back down here and you'll turn that on, right? So it's more about creating these things and then going in and refining them, right? So there's that pad, right? There's that pad. And then if I go up here, the upper rings were later, and then I just position them there. There's that pad, that pad, that pad, right? So if you think about it, if I go back to all of these, right, the feet cube, and I start to undo some of these things, right? That's how it starts. So this is actually what you make initially. You kind of want to start with this like very generic thing, right? And all of this is just like starting with a pad and then going up or down. And then when you get to like kind of the total volume of what's going to be there that you're going to carve from, you can see that this right here, that's the total, that's the initial volume of that piece. And then I just started carving from it, right? So once you get this initial volume, which is only in a couple of the first pads, then you go on to the next piece and you'll notice these binders. So this is really interesting. If I turn off the lower cube, right, which is right there, but how did I get this feet cube where it is? I actually had to bring in a binder. So what this binder is, it's there's a button up right here. And essentially what you do is while you have this guy selected, which means it's bold, you click on something like that, you just hit that button, and it makes this object into a reference object that you can now build on top of. So it gives you permission to access this thing. So if you look at this binder right here, right? This is, I turn it off, I turn it on. It's the same thing as this lower cube. But it keeps a history, so it knows that it's this version right here. So I know this is confusing. I won't continue to explain too much more. Just showing you, but essentially that binder is the same object that is here, right? You can see that they're exactly the same thing, but you need a binder for you to build on, right? You can't build on another object. You build on top of the binder of that object so that it can be a part of this tree, right? This is how it's, this is how the information goes back to the source, right? So I'll show you how to do this. We're going to get into it. This was the second iteration. So it's right here, super simple. And then I don't know why, oh, I didn't model any wheels here because I already had the wheels here. So if you go here, just turn on the wheel. I use the same wheels, so I didn't have to remodel it. But essentially, this is the first model that we made. And this has all the same characteristics. The only difference is that I have the face, front, and back for the A9, which I did later. And if I turn those off, I can turn on the A7. So this was the initial model. Obviously, these are at the top for the smaller tablet, which is this one right over here. And then the A9 is the blue one. I'll show you how to do all this, but this is the same thing. It's just a pad, right? If I go to this guy right here, let's turn this off. I'll show you that the original pad for this whole thing is just that, right? And then adding the pad on the back, right? Because I wanted to start from this being the front, and then adding a pocket, and then adding another pocket, right? Carving out these little things for you to be able to plug things in. And then adding the holes, right? Is that what we did here? Yeah. See, we put these holes in here for it to mount to. And then we did a fillet, which must have been these internal corners right here. And then we did another pocket, which was all of these holes that you screw through. It actually screws through the back, and the nuts are threaded inserts, and they go into the face, which is on here, right? So that's where the threaded insert lives, and the bolt goes all the way through from the back so that the face itself is nice and clean. And that's why you don't see bolts on the face of the robot. You actually see them in the back. And then just to clean this up more, I did, let's see what other pockets are here. Oh, this guy right here. So then I needed to make a pocket for the camera to be able to see through the back camera, which I measured, and we're going to do all that. And then I did, and then you do another pocket on top of that pocket that allows you to get to that hole, so that basically these screws are sunken in here, and that's where the washer goes. So you kind of have like two different radiuses of hole that are working together. And then the rest is just chamfers, right? Cleaned up the back edge, chamfered that bad boy. Did another chamfer, that must be this one, around here and around there. And then final chamfer must have been this guy right here on the back. So that's it, right? It's only a couple steps. It's not really that complicated. It's all pads, it's all pockets, it's all chamfers or fillets, right? Everything here is just one of those things. And to get all these pads, all you need to do is draw. To create a body, you have to create a drawing, you have to extrude that drawing, or that drawing becomes a pocket where you're cutting away at the material. So essentially, that's pretty much it for the first part, which is just going to be kind of, showing you how these things are put together. So this is what we're building. This is what you have to look forward to. This is going to be a CAD course on how to design Millie Mini AI Bot. Of course, you can just buy the robot. We sell the robot, so that'll be available on the store, and you won't have to CAD and you won't have to 3D print. If you just want to buy the robot with the tablet already installed, you can do that, and it can just work and pay the subscription fee to have the AI run like any other app. Or if you want to, you can access the coding course, which will unlock the open source code. You can download it, and then you can modify it, and you can program it. So you can basically buy the robot instead of building it, and then you can work on the programming side of it, or you can download the working app, install it, and run it, and build it, or you can do everything like I do. And those are the options. So basically that is the conclusion of this intro for Millie Mini AI Bot. We've gone over this guy, we've gone over this guy, and kind of just shown you the intro into CAD, FreeCAD, and how that works. So let me just, before we go, let me just turn all these back on to where they should be. Okay. So now we have the full model. You can see that, some of these objects, right? Like the middle shelf, not too complicated. These are more complicated. Right. A couple more steps involved in making this body. But basically that's it. And in the next video, what we're going to do is jump into actually starting this project from a brand new empty file And then we can keep these guys open for references, but essentially this guy was too tall and too thin, and it's easy to knock him over. And then this guy was a little too wide, and the height is cool, but again, we want to replace these with independent vertical components. So this will be one piece as a square, and then these will be 4 vertical components that will take you up to the next shelf, and then 4 more vertical components flipped around the other way, which will take you up to the top shelf. And then there's the top cube up here, same as the bottom cube. And then if you notice, what we've left room for here is space for other things. So I built this in to be kind of more than necessary space under here, because I want to be able to put other things in here that make this motorized. So this whole compartment down here, instead of having these dummy kind of like wheel frames that just hold the 3D printed wheels, we're going to actually replace all of this with motors from a real robot kit, and we'll wire it up. We'll put the camera sensor here. We might put the LiDAR sensor in here. We might put the Raspberry Pi and the control board in here. We might add arms to it. But basically, as of now, this is a desktop robot that you can assemble. It doesn't move, but in the future, we definitely want to make it motorized. So there's already great companies that make these kits. So we'll get one of them, and instead of installing the kit on their body, I'll make it work on this body. So you can also buy that kit. Hopefully we can partner with them to do that. So that's basically it for this video. You know, we've kind of gone over CAD and how that works. In the next video, we'll actually be showing you how to do it. So come back for that, and you know, stay tuned for the whole course. Thanks.